is Steve Cooper. Michelle asked for the link, so I sent it to everybody that replied.
Thank you. All right. I will go ahead and call the meeting to order at 9:10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're coming from. I hope everyone has had an awesome Thursday thus far. I know I am. First and foremost, I want to express my deepest condolences to the Matt family for the recent passing of Willis Mann. And I would like to recognize a moment of silence for our first director of the TAM program. So if we could have a moment of silence in recognition of Willis, and then we will proceed from our meeting from there. All right. Okay, we have made a few adjustments, as everybody knows. Roll call is now listed on the PowerPoint slide deck, as you can see. Al, our chair, is not joining us today, so I will be assuming the role of facilitating today's meeting in his absence. I think he's in Vermont or Connecticut. He's somewhere up north at a basketball tournament. His granddaughters are playing in that tournament, so he's there supporting the two of them. If you wouldn't mind either bringing up your camera and letting us know you're here to be recognized, or putting it in the chat. So first person, David Dresner. Again, put here in the chat or just turn on your camera. All right, fantastic. Next, Payal Sarmacharya. Good morning. Glenn.
Hello, good morning.
Mickey Morales or Michelle. Michelle. Okay, Alyssa Dittmar.
Good morning. Hello.
Alex Simmons. Alex, are you with us today? Kenneth Puckvich.
Mr. Ken, you're muted, my friend.
Present.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, and if you could take your video down. Steve Cooper.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Lori Markland. Okay, we actually need to update your name, Lori. Apologies. Shannon Minnick. Hi, Shannon.
Good morning.
Al, as mentioned, is not here. Deidre Lynch.
Good morning.
Okay, Deidre's here. Fantastic. All right, good morning, everyone. Appreciate you being with us. We have successfully met quorum. We have also concluded our roll call. Okay, so I believe David will be doing an update on the senior call check program. So I'll turn things over to him at that point, and we will then continue on with TAM's staff reports. So David, could you update us on the SCC?
Absolutely. We have done a lot of coordination meetings and setups. Essentially, we're still waiting to reach out and contact them and receive their next final invoices for the FY fiscal year. And spending is about $144,000 and compared to our budget request, which was $350,000. So their spending is under the projected and anticipated for the year. We are hoping to welcome a representative from the senior call check to come and give a presentation and share a little bit about what their vision is for the project going forward.
Excellent. We're just going to proceed ahead with the agenda. Again, our goal is to be able to conclude this meeting by 11. And since David is already here, if he just wants to segue right into the director's report.
Absolutely. Thank you, Darren. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our GABTAR meeting again. I do have a director's report. Many of our staff listing are some news to share, so I do want to pass it on to them as soon as I can. A policy update. Several months ago, we were assigned with the FCC carriers the RTT 711 support. We applied for that, and they garnered a lot of attention. We ended up having a meeting with the chief of DORO,
the
DRO, excuse me, for the relay services, and shared with them some of our motivation for the FCC rulemaking. He did recognize that the FCC's prior RTT rules were incomplete and did not really touch on all of the crucial elements that when it came to access to 911. FCC is now doing a second round of rulemaking. These are interim rules, and it was assigned to staff to follow up with that with me and providing information going forward. We do see more and more attention from the FCC on this issue. The last RTT rule change was in 2016, so it's been about 7 years, and obviously the time has come to see another. Another update I wanted to share with you is in regards to our space. Unfortunately, at this time, we've not found an alternate location. We have sent out requests for proposals for different real estate offices to essentially find an area or a space where we could spread out a little bit. We've sent that out, and we're looking at possibly later on that we'll be able to go do some site visits. We're in process, but it is just slow in finding that location. The last update that I have for FY23 budgeting cycle is nearing our third quarter ending, which means we'll be starting our fourth quarter, and we'll have a wrap up of our
Object spending
and looking at different plans. As far as the budget goes, as an example, we've done a lot of reach out in regards to relay and equipment, provided equipment to various constituents. So I hope you enjoy learning about our previous activities over the past year, and I thank you for your time.
Okay, next up, we'd like to ask Leslie Hannibal to come up to give his finance report.
Good morning, everyone. Leslie Hannibal. I am your finance guru. Just kidding. Over the past 4 years, our beginning balance continues to decline. For the fiscal year 23, we started the year with 10,903,824. Next slide, please. Our revenue intake from the USTF fund, over the last 4 years, we've come to intake about $2.8 million. Thus far, we've collected 1.636204 from the USTF fund. Next slide. So far as our expenditures are concerned, we've steadily increased our expenditure spending for the programs that we undertake. Thus far this year, we spent 2.074561 in expenditures, which as you see from the previous slide, is more than what we have taken in as revenue. So our expenditures are increasing and our revenue continue to remain the same. Next slide, please. Thus far this year, we have 10.465467 left in our revenue. For the fiscal year 23, I anticipate we'll be about $9 million at the end of the fiscal year, for fiscal year 23 going into 24. Next slide, and that's my report. Any questions?
This is Darren. I actually have a question for you, Leslie. Oh, and actually I see a question in the chat from Glenn as well. Looks like great minds think alike. So it seems, as you mentioned, there's a little bit of a downward trajectory there. So our revenue is less. I'd like to ask, is that normal? Is that something typical? Or is it because we're trying to, reduce the overall amount in the USTF?
Well, it's both. We are trying to reduce the balance in the USTF fund per our mandate that we should be carrying. We should not be carrying such a high balance, but the revenue has continued to come in at about $2.8 million every year thus far. Right, as David just mentioned, the revenue typically goes up, but what you noticed, we've also been spending a lot on the programs. So therefore, as we spend more and intake less, the balance will continue to decrease. Any other questions?
Thank you. No.
That's my report. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you. Excellent. Next up, I'd like to actually call Travis Doherty. Good morning, everybody. Hold on one second. Okay, so we've got several things in the works right now. I'd like to update you our progress on. First, a reminder to all of our board members that, let me double check before I speak out of turn. June 30th of 2023, by that time, all board members will have had an expired term. We have 4 active, the rest are expired. So I'd really like to encourage everybody to reach out to the office so we can help you and walk you through the reapplication process if you would like to continue on with another term. Your counsel is very critical to our operations. So if you would like to reapply for another term, please reach out to us so we can walk you through that process prior to the 30th of June. So that was our reminder. Moving on, UTAP. as David explained about the RTT update, UTAP, UTAP, this is still an ongoing conversation. We've made a lot of progress with the RTT updates. When it comes to the UTAP overlay piece of that, there's some things that have been going on behind the scenes that I'd like to share with you. First and foremost, we've already had our meeting with the FCC, and they completely understand what our intentions are. We've also met with other representatives, also under the FCC, to have that conversation with the possibility of looking at any legal implications and legal possibilities of how to make the UTAP one number a reality, that being one number for text and relay and all the other services. To be completely frank with you, our biggest limitation is that we can use the ITRS number for any relay service. Okay, that is a possibility. The issue comes into play with texting and maintaining that same number for texting. That's the challenge. And the reason is the ITRS database and the North American database, North American numbering database, let me get the nomenclature correctly, they are not cross-compatible. The North American numbering registry is where all the cell phone numbers and the texting numbers come in, and that is completely separate from ITRS. So right now there is no interoperability. That's the problem. However, the FCC is already working on a possible solution and a way to integrate both of those databases together to make that a reality. Okay. That will lead to us being able to use that one number for everything, including texting. So the team and I have had conversations, and I have been informed that you can text from ITRS to the other database. So maybe for piloting purposes, we might be able to use the one number, but only use the ITRS database system. It can go from ITRS to ITRS, but not over to the texting side. So until they work out the legalities, we might just work within the one system to use that as a data collection and a data mining model, and then that we can pass on to the FCC so that they can make a better decision in terms of how we're going to move forward with these one number efforts that we're all vested in. Getting back to RTT, as David mentioned in his report, we continue to have ongoing conversations with the various carriers. We are now working with a contractor who works specifically with the FCC. This is a group that is, how do I say, let me find the right nomenclature, hold on. They're responsible essentially for establishing regs and databases for numbers through the ITRS system. And they are trying to find a way to make that texting functionality work through ITRS to ITRS. Remember, we talked about the texting being the one issue. And I'll share more on that later once I have more information. Right now, we're still in the dialogue phase, but still very exciting progress when it comes to the efforts overall. Next up, the CVTA, which is an acronym everybody should be familiar with. For those of you who are not, you might remember what was previously called the CVAA, the Communication Video Accessibility Act. That didn't cover 100% of the different technologies when it came to accessibilities. As technology continues to evolve, it covered very specific facets of technology. So the CVTA, is an upgraded version. Think about it like the CVAA 2.0. And it includes more specific terminology like audio description and very specific accessibility features, description video, signed video. And there's a nonprofit organization, disability organizations that have come together, the NAD, for example, TDI is another example. All these nonprofit organizations have come together under the auspice of a larger organization to try to develop different policies, regulations, regulatory processes specific to this that then can be recommended and then passed through Congress to become the act as it is now, and the law that it is today, the CVTA. So very excited. I was a NASRA representative on that coalition that I mentioned, and it really was an honor. And they have been very active as of late in different areas of technology that I am not familiar with. My wheelhouse is more telecommunications, but it was really fascinating through the process to learn about all these other types of technologies that also have a similar impact. Okay, more exciting news. We partnered with the Maryland crossover basketball team and sponsored the women's team. Essentially, you see our logo there on the back of the uniform. That was what our sponsorship pretty much allowed us, and we will have that as a sponsorship for the next 4 years. And that led me to being introduced to the Eastern Athletic Association of the Deaf, the EAAD tournament director. So met them, got his contact information, realized that it was an opportunity to partner also, not only with them, but with the Deaf Community Center in Maryland, who was hosting the event. So we were able to provide a sponsorship, which got our logo on the back of the uniforms for this one particular team. In addition to that, it really led to and generated many more sponsorship opportunities, specifically as it relates to the Maryland Deaf Community Center. They host various events such as bingos at different restaurants on a monthly basis, other fundraising activities and different gathering and social events, and we will be providing support to them moving forward. Maryland Relay will. They are established the MDCC in Frederick, of course, and so we'll be continuing to partner and collaborate with them. It also gave me the opportunity right before the championship game to give a little plug for Maryland Relay, which was really nice. Great experience. Really enjoyed it. That, of course, has led to a few other basketball tournaments who have reached out to us for sponsorships, all Maryland teams. So our outreach manager, Donna, has been looped into those introductions and will be moving forward with some of those opportunities. I've already explained about the RTT updates. Now, to touch on RCC very quickly for everyone. Right now, we are working primarily on marketing efforts for RCC. We are developing a 30-second animated video, very similar to the Martha story that we developed for the caption phones. This is going to be in kind, but it's going to be marketing RCC because we want to keep that connection and keep that branding, so to speak. So we're going to use the same type of animation in this next video. We've finished approving the final script, so now we're in the development phase. Our RCC minutes are starting to stabilize, just to let the board know. We're about 4,000 to 5,000 minutes per month at this point. And let me think. And I think that's why, and that's what's really led to us really focusing on those marketing efforts due to the stabilization of minutes. Now, since the basketball tournament and our plug there, I've noticed an increase in minutes, a little bump there, and we're hoping with these marketing efforts, we can give more training and more user experiences so people really understand the service. Once they understand the service, they're more likely to use it on a regular basis. So we're working on that plan as it relates to marketing. And then we have 2 more updates not listed on the PowerPoint that I did want to take the opportunity to share, specifically with TTY and caption phone. Let's start with our caption phone. Our minutes continue to decline and pretty much record lows on a monthly basis for the number of minutes. That being said, the decline is slowing down. The curve is not as steep as it was. Yet it continues to be a downward trend. My understanding, and Kevin might be elaborating this, or are we still giving out analog caption phones? I'm not sure, and he might need to clarify that point to me. I don't think we are. Some states have already stopped distributing those caption phones. I don't know if we have or not. On the TTY or the TRS front, our numbers continue to be stable. There's no recognizable declines. It's more of those folks who just use that calling service on a regular basis, school systems and different businesses. We continue to see a steady level of minutes, albeit at a low level. So it's just those routine users and the routine level of service that we've come to expect. How long that will last is anybody's guess. Moving forward. And to be clear, TTY doesn't only mean the TTY machine. It also can be TTY via your mobile device or on the other platforms. And I believe I see a question in the chat. Okay, so Michelle Morales is asking, what are the alternatives to caption phones? I'm actually going to let Kevin answer that when he gives his presentation. That really is his wheelhouse, not mine. So that being said, That concludes my report, and I'll take any questions before we turn things over to Kevin. Glenn, did you have a question?
Yes, I did see the Hamilton report, the numbers that they provided, which I found absolutely fascinating. When they talk about the client reach out being 0 for that one category, for the caption telephones, which it seems like then people are satisfied with it. I did see the number of minutes being used in thousands. So I'm just wondering if that's essentially kind of a set and perfect system.
So that's a good question. I can speak to why that's happening and why they haven't been getting a lot of customer complaints. So in the past, a lot of the complaints that customers have reached out to customer care for were related to connectivity issues, calls being dropped, things of that nature. That being said, as of late, I want to say not too long ago, Hamilton updated their system. So that greatly reduced a lot of the false or misdials, they call it, or false calls. So that led to a tremendous improvement. That improvement in their system correlated to a decrease in complaints. A lot of times there's been misdials and things of that nature. So that's the reason, because that pretty much took care of that. Okay. And we've seen that across the board. System improvements have led to an increase of.
Sure, I guess it was maybe last year. So I myself didn't necessarily experience that at all. So you're saying, are people aware? Was it people not picking up the phone? I mean, I guess I'm just wondering what it was that caused such a dramatic shift.
Okay, so essentially our website and Hamilton's website are both places where they can go to get that information.
Yes, I understand. I just see that TRS has a number of contacts in regards to errors, etc., but the caption phones have none. And I just found that intriguing personally.
Well, that's fine. Also, in addition to that, we have a customer care chat as well as another feature that kind of pops up in the corner of the screen. We still do get reports on the other relay services, but for the caption phone, it's just a smaller number now. So we get reports for all the different services. But good question, Glenn. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, few things for you. Oh, one. Go ahead. Oh.
I saw
Can I
comment
respond to
added
the
in
chat? Okay. David wants to respond about the caption phones, and that's fine. This is true. So RCC is one of the alternative services, okay, to caption phones. That's one alternative. The reason, how do I explain? Through our findings, essentially 50% of the calls on caption phones were for conference calls. We recognize that. So that could be considered an alternative. So David just mentioned that in the chat, and I wanted to reiterate that. So Darren?
So you mentioned there's a lot of sort of standardization, routine calls when it comes to businesses, et cetera. And is the process of starting a dialogue, is that help transition from TTY to maybe the more advanced system? Or is it more of that we should maybe hold on to that, hold that dialogue for another year to find out what's going on?
Well, David and I have had a lot of conversations around that particular point, really and truly, based on the statutes. TTY still exists in some areas, ergo we need to provide this service, even though it's antiquated and not many people are using it anymore. In addition to that, we do recognize specific populations of people who do still rely on TTY services, and we understand and want to honor that. As in terms of RTT and that transition is not ready. We want to go there, but there are a few other things that need to be solved and a few legal barriers and technological barriers that need to be ironed out before we can make that transition from TTY over solely to RTT service. Another thing that I'm pretty big on is first impressions. Anytime a new product or a new service or a new technology is introduced, you want that first step into that new realm, that first taste of that new service to be a good one. You want to make a good first impression. And to roll out RTT with limited functionality and have people have a bad experience just leaves me wanting. I want people's first impression of RTT to be a good one. I want them to walk away feeling good about it. And that's why we're moving forward with UTAP, is to hopefully push that forward faster by bringing the FCC on board. And I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. Are there any other questions, any other comments or feedback from the rest of the board? Seeing none, I'd like to then transition over to Kevin for his report. Oh, thank you, Darren. I appreciate that. Kevin here. This is Kevin Steffi, manager of the MAT program. As you can see on the slide, there's elements of my report. Looking at this past quarter, for 2023, we have seen 148 new applications. In the past quarter, the previous quarter, it was 122. So the new applications has increased. We also provided 270 different pieces of equipment out compared to 133 in the previous quarter. We do want to say we are thankful for the new devices. They've
Square Glow.
been with Square Glow. It's been absolutely great for the notifications of calls, etc. When it comes to doorbells, the accessibility on those items are fantastic. Now, we also, our MAT specialist, Jane, has been incredibly busy going to various different places. Jane Hager has been absolutely instrumental in the work and providing these services. We've been learning about different devices. We actually went to a TV interview in Salisbury. The TV was, station was Delmarva Light. That was the program on their station. I think that was about a month or two ago that we did that as an outreach. If I can move on to the next slide. Now, the Communication Facilitator Program, or CF program, I did want to mention as well. In the previous quarter, or in this past quarter rather, we provided 137 services. And that is in comparison to 107 from the quarter just prior to that. So we are seeing an increase in service requests. In total, for FY23, we have 304. Compared to the last year, third quarter, we had 60, I believe, or 64. So 304 compared to 60 is an incredible increase, exponential or more so. Now, we do expect for this year, we have a prediction of over 400 services or service instances offered. So this, the program itself is really taking off. I am also happy to report that the deafblind access, the deafblind individuals having access to their family, friends, webinars, different meetings and whatnot through these video conferencing with CF services is great. It's absolutely amazing to be able to include other members of our community. So far, there are 11 deafblind individuals that are using our services. Now, there is a conference coming up in Baltimore, the RID conference. And there is also a deafblind camp that is in West River. It's near Annapolis, and that will be hosted during the summer. There are recruitment of deafblind individuals in Maryland to try to be involved in the CF program and to join other individuals to have them join as facilitators, because those communication facilitators, if we can grow the pool, it means that we will then be able to provide more accessibility and satisfy the needs of the constituency of Maryland when it comes to our deafblind members.
All right, several questions for you, Kevin. First and foremost, it's awesome to hear that the numbers continue to go up. That's very exciting news. And the positive impact that the program is having on constituents. It being something new, that's very exciting.
Agreed.
So my question, as it relates to the users, you mentioned you have 11 deafblind users, which seems like a pretty small amount based on first blush. How are you getting the word out about the program? Is it word of mouth mostly, or? Are you going to different events and conferences? You mentioned 2 conferences that you're planning to attend this upcoming summer, but as of right now with 11 users, what are your outreach efforts? What do they look like?
That's a very good question. Thank you, Darren. So in regards to advertising, getting the word out, it is oftentimes word of mouth. We also do utilize other avenues. The CF committee, they have 2 deafblind individuals within it, and they are trying themselves on their own to provide a little bit more knowledge and awareness of the program. Jane, as I mentioned, has also gone to different deafblind events and trying to recruit individuals to utilize our program just by increasing awareness. Now, there are more than 11 deafblind individuals out there, obviously, but there is some resistance due to many years of not having service. There is, I think, a framework shift, a perspective shift that needs to be had. Oftentimes there's a misconception that they need to pay for these services, and we have to tell them it's not even 1 cent of their money that would be going to. So we just need to, I believe, give the program time to become more well-known, to expand its base. And these 11 deafblind individuals that are in the program are probably some of the biggest multipliers of awareness of the program, because they also let others know. We are still going to different like RID, different events, webinars, or meeting places that we then also are able to explain the benefits of this program. There's some web cooking events that we've been able to go to. I myself was available to go to one event, and it was rather interesting. There was an individual who was deafblind, not from Maryland, they were from DC and Virginia at that event. And often they will say that they want this same service in their coverage area, asking us, and this is at MWADB, asking us if we provide that service for them. But unfortunately, we are solely within the state of Maryland, and I encourage them to reach out to their various offices of deaf and hard of hearing, or deafblind and deaf and hard of hearing, to see if they can establish a CF program within them. But unfortunately, as far as a timeline goes, we have no way of knowing when that would be for those other individuals.
Okay, second question. When it comes to recruiting of CDIs, as you mentioned, how do you plan to get that information out? Are you advertising via like old-fashioned newspaper? Or is it, again, a word of mouth situation? What does recruitment look like?
Now, in the past, we did utilize sort of the traditional newspaper mechanism, but as far as FY22, when it came to advertising for this need, we saw fewer and fewer responses to that. We noticed that most of those facilitators that are involved in the program are actually friends of other CDIs, DIs, or other people that were aware of it, and said it, they themselves became our sort of numbers multiplier. We had 4 new individuals that were then able to, expand our pool. They've gone to different events and they've discussed it with their community themselves, and then that generates that interest in the program and being a part of it. Now, the CF program has hosted training, and we will be, we're hoping it was this past fall, and again this spring we could, but unfortunately this spring we are unable to. So we are looking to hopefully have more individuals being available to take the training in the fall. We're trying to gather more people to take that training. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Are there any further questions for Kevin's report? We'll entertain them if so, but seeing none, we'll excuse you, Kevin, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our next presenter is Donna Broadway-Kellerman. Welcome in, Donna. You're muted, my friend.
I am sorry, it's been so. I did not intend to do this on my phone, so I apologize. Okay. I do that at least once a meeting. Okay, how's everybody doing? Okay, when you're ready, you can go to the next slide. Okay. So what is new with Maryland Relay and Mad Outreach? So May is an extremely busy month. There is NCAP in Bethesda. There is the Maryland Association of Election Officials. That is a new event. We connected with them at Winter Mako in January. So we connected with some elected officials in Baltimore County, and they thought this would be a good event for us to attend. So we're attending that. We're attending the Maryland Library Association, the ARC in Ellicott City, the National Associations of Social Work. We are attending NORTH and a few other events. So May is extremely busy, and this is not even all of them. Next slide, please. So we are still working closely with the teams at MDOD, namely Yeshiva and Do It, to migrate from our old platform to the MDOD platform. So our subsite on MDOD was scrapped, and we are just going to get a new site. So we're going to bypass the subsite that was originally supposed to be on the MDOD platform to a new Do It site. So the date of that is to be determined, but Yeshiva is actively working on migrating the site. And then we are still waiting for the communication and publication guidelines from the Moore Miller administration. What we've been doing temporarily is removing all of the holdover logos from Hogan administration. So the Changing Maryland for the Better is a Hogan specific logo. And then we still use the MDOD logo, but we use it sparingly because those are still Hogan logos. So, and the date on that is to be determined. Next slide, please. So while Jenny Pearson, our former CTS coordinator, and out-of-state outreach coordinators from Hamilton continue to support us in our outreach, what we do, see, this has been updated. So as of now, we have somebody who is scheduled to begin with Hamilton Relay. So his name is Connor Fitzgerald. He was officially hired by Hamilton sometime in April, and he's supposed to start in mid-May, but due to his training, he won't be ready to fully join the Maryland team until June. So that means as of right now, we have 2 positions that are open, so hopefully we will get them filled very soon. And then we have worked closely with Devaney to spend our advertising budget of $160,000 before the end of the fiscal year, and that has been spent. And then there is the TAM outreach email event. So if you have any events or anything, any questions, you can email that. Next question, please. Next slide. Sorry. Next slide, please. Okay, so our continued outreach efforts really don't have anything new. These have been working, so we're going to continue with them. So we're doing advertising, webinars, mailings, virtual hybrid events. Even though most events have been gone to in person, there are still some virtual events. We have field visit, television spots, and networking and marketing events. Next slide, please. Okay, that is the end of my report. Are there any questions, feedback?
Actually, yes, I would like to ask a question. It is with respect to Devaney. I know that we had a $6,000 spend. Are we seeking, well, let me back up, Donna. The $6,000 that's budgeted has been spent. Are we holding off on using their services until we get a new contract in place?
Well, right now we are currently using Devaney services. So as far as I know, there aren't any plans to like replace Devaney. Like if that happens in the future, we will let you know. But as far as I know, there aren't any plans to do that.
Alrighty, thank you. Excellent. Are there any other questions for Donna's report today? Seeing none. Looks like you're excused. Thank you very much, Donna. And we'll
Thank
move
you.
through our agenda. Yep. We've now arrived at a 10-minute break, after which we will open the floor to board members for their updates, all right? So, ladies and gentlemen, let's resume at 10:05. How's that? See you then. 10:05. All righty. We've arrived at the portion of the agenda where we
Okay, so bylaw updates maybe?
looks like there's still some going on there with bylaws. So we haven't received word back on some of our contacts about any updates there. So we will table the bylaws discussion and shoot for getting that wrapped up before the fall. So if there's no more discussion on that, let's move ahead. Are there any items of new business that anyone would like to put forward? Seeing none. I was just informed that the Attorney General is overwhelmed with other matters. They haven't gotten to the bylaws yet. They will in due course. And we will await word. It's out of our control at the moment. So, any other updates or announcements from anyone? Looks like David wants to come on in. I should say MCOD met recently and filled me in on the legal updates. There are a couple of new programs going on, a couple of current programs also with some updates, but it would appear that it's all running according to plan on their side of things. Steve's got a question with respect to the budget. Come on in.
Hello, Steve here. It was a year ago or so, we were looking at the projected budget, and Leslie pointed out that in 7 to 10 years, we were going from like 12, 13 million to zero. And there was talk of approaching the previous administration about an additional source of funding. But my question is, with the projections setting, on a downward spiral, what steps or what initiatives is the Maryland Relay looking at to shore up that lack of financing? Because we've talked about it. It was brought up earlier today. Oh yes, I see the budget's going down, but what steps are on the horizon or are being taken to address that?
David, you want to answer that question?
Yeah, so in regards to Steve's question and comment, on the budget, I would like to tell you, I believe the last time that we shared with you, we had that trend of expected to end at zero by 2027, 28. We did at that time review our projections based on the most recent data that we've gotten. We've just done that a few months ago, rather. And we have noticed that based on the lowest relay expenditures and the lowest expected cost for equipment, that time frame is around to now 2029 to 2030. Again, that is just a projection. It's a best estimate, best guess. based on the data that we have. So that projection is expected to obviously morph with the times and as the data changes, and we'll give you those updates as we can. I hope that answers your question.
Well, my question is, Steve again, to 2027, 2029, it's headed to zero. So what initiatives are being discussed to bring in any new funding?
Understood. Let me go ahead and explain again a little bit about when it comes to our funding mechanisms, how those work. So annually, we do submit a letter to the comptroller in regards to essentially public service comptroller. I do apologize. And that would be in regards to explaining what our revenue and expenditures are expected, either when it comes to the surcharges, that USTF 5 cents, and if that's going to be satisfactory to meet our expenditure needs for the next projected year. So far, we have had sufficient funds with our funding. We haven't actually had to request any additional funding at this time. And when it comes to our mechanisms, they are maintaining what our needs. Now, previously it was higher. I believe it was before the last change, it was 11 cents, I believe. And from that, that was one of the reasons why we had such a large surplus in our accounts. And we were not spending it enough at that time. So at that point, we were trying to manage the surplus of money in the accounts versus what we were utilizing. So that 2027, 2029, that's based on our annual plan. We don't believe that necessarily that 5 cents will be enough at any point when that occurs. We would then be reaching out to look at having that surcharge increased and submit that for approval or denial as it may be at the time.
Okay, thank you. That explains better what the future will bring.
Not a problem. Thank you.
All righty. Are there any additional announcements or matters of business? Seeing none. This is a short and sweet meeting to go on the books. We're at our final slide, if I'm not mistaken. We are indeed. So allow me to adjourn this meeting at 10:14 a.m. Hey! All righty, everyone. You have a great Thursday yourselves. You be safe out there. We're having some weather tomorrow. You keep it clean. Thanks all.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.